a common problem a lot of beginning painters have, and it's generally addressed by the oil painters. But we're working with acrylics, and there's a few modifications we have to make to their method. Same technique, but we've got to make a few modifications to the method. In order to do that, we're going to do a study in clouds today by trying to duplicate, or at least re-represent, this picture here. This is one I did in my sketchbook a while ago when I was doing my own study on clouds. And we're starting with a brand new canvas. So we know that much. Today we'll be using our Galeriariste acrylic paint premium 24 color sets. These do come in a bottle, but they are considerably thicker than your typical bottled paints. For a palette, we only need 3 colors today. We're going to work with cerulean, a deep cyan, and titanium white. We also only need 3 brushes today. We'll use our 2-inch. I believe that's a number 4 fan. And our blending brush. If you feel like you need it, any palette knife to pull colors together. And of course at the end we'll have to choose between our white gel or our black Sharpie. So let's go ahead and get started. And the reason we're starting with a brand new canvas, this canvas is still wrapped. The reason we're doing it that way is because I want to show you how to put the canvas on one of these cheaper easels and still be able to access the full front area of the canvas. Like I said, brand new canvas. We're opening it. These are just cheap canvases from Amazon. I believe I got the 8x10s in a pack of 40. Let's see, there's a little lip down here on these cheaper easels. You want to pull your canvas forward to that lip a little bit, and then you got your pinch clip up here. You don't want to open that up either. You want to do the same thing with it. So it's a little bit overlapping the canvas, and then just pull it tight and lock it down. Now, if you're watching for the first time or you're a first time acrylic painter, we always use a wet brush. Get our brush wet, take out the excess, give it a good flick, make sure there's not too much water in there. Should almost feel dry to the touch, but not completely. First thing we want to do is we want to create a little bit of light. So we're going to go into our titanium white. And right about the center, we're just going to put some titanium white in there, just so that's not raw canvas when we're done. Cross-hatching motion helps get in between the fibers of the canvas. And we'll leave that white in there. Re-wet our brush, and we'll pull quite a bit of our deep cyan. And we're going to go kind of out away from our light source around just a general shape that we want to have, general size of the shape we want to have. Set that brush aside. We'll get our blending brush, fill it up with water, shake out the excess, and we're going to do a swirling, very light touch motion. We're going to blend that a little bit, even it out. Let it fade into your light area a little bit. Let it even out. So you get the effect you want on your light, however small you want your light source to wind up being. If you have one handy, just use your wet rag. Knock out the excess color. We're going to clean most of that old paint out. By painting the bottom of our bucket, or if you have a beater rack in there, you can use that. By the way, make sure you have a tarp or something that you don't mind ruining, because you will redecorate your room. I tend to have my cleaning water and my clean water. Whenever I'm using the blending brush, I use my clean water. And we're going to go back to our 2-inch, going into our cerulean, load that brush up, ends of the brush, load it up, and you're just going to start at your dark point, finish covering the canvas. Now, this color is not going to look right, but trust me, when it dries, it will. Make sure you're overlapping. See, the way we put that canvas on the easel, it allows us to make sure we get those edges, so that from the front view, it looks complete. Make sure you're working from your dark point out. You know, that cross-hatching motion as much as possible. You might have to re-wet your brush every now and then just to make the paint flow better, especially if you're using this Galeriariste, because like I said, it's not a typical liquid paint. At the time of recording this, I'm not sponsored by any of the products that I mentioned. I'm just telling you what products I use. And once you got the coverage you think you want, you just go ahead and set that 2-inch in your water, because you're not going to be needing it for a while now. Into your clean water with whatever brush you're using for blending. Just start blending it. Start where your dark area was and just blend it. It may not be translating right now, but it will. Smooth out your blends, making sure not to overlap your previous color too much. Now for the fun part. I'll grab our fan brush, and we're going to pull some of that deep cyan and some white. We're going to lighten that deep cyan up just a little bit, not dark, not enough to blend totally with your cerulean. That's about the color we're looking for. Load that brush up, both sides of it. Now you're just going to start gently tapping in. If it's not showing up good enough, make it a little darker. Start tapping in a general line. This is going to be your baseline. Helps to use 2 hands when you're doing this. Helps to have both brushes ready. Okay. It's still not quite dark enough. Let's just go more deep cyan. Tap it in. Tap it in. Just a general line. Don't keep a circle going here. Don't want them all connected because you want them to overlap a little bit once in a while. keep that pattern going all the way out to the edges of your canvas. It don't always have to be just a straight line. Keep that pattern going. Remember, every once in a while you want your shapes to overlap each other. Yeah, I gotta have dark. Put a lighter color on it. Probably time to blend that before we lose it. Before we lose the ability to blend it. A light touch. There's a certain famous painter that actually I learned the technique from. Old Bob Ross used to say, just a few hairs and some air. Keep in mind the direction you want your rotation to be, because you want to work that direction the whole way through this project. Like I said, it helps to have that blending brush ready to go. We need a little bit right there, right here, a little bit there. We'll just work our way. Don't need a defined shape. Don't even actually need a defined line. Something, put some dark in there. Sometimes I'll go ahead and go right to the edge corner. Just give that impression that it continues beyond the canvas. Make sure we haven't got a whole lot of excess paint in that blending brush. And if you make sure your rag is wet, it'll keep it from getting stiff while you work. Yes, it will stain your rag, but it'll keep it from getting stiff while you work, and you can clean it out enough to be able to reuse it. Okay. Oh, let me take a break right here. See the hoodie I'm wearing tonight. It's another one of our merchandise products. I'll make sure I put the merchandise links in the description. We've got all sorts of merchandise from apparel to coffee mugs in several different price ranges, from high, medium to low, along with the quality range. So it's one of those you get what you pay for things. But I'll make sure the links are down below to link to our products. For those of you that have been watching and might be wondering, well, where's Jasmine? Where's the J of the group? Well, she's actually my assistant tonight, and she's running my cameras for me. She's not quite ready to go on camera herself yet. So let's get back to this. We're going to load our brush with white, just a touch of blue. Go with just a touch of the cerulean. I want to give it just a blue tint, but still be white. You have to pull a little more. Get a color you're happy with. Then you want to follow your pattern, just like you did when you made it. Follow that same pattern you just made. But you're going to have to keep adding white to it, because you're going to keep picking up blue as you go. Speaking of white, I think I'm going to need some clean white for the final step. You just kind of work your pattern. This is staying wet longer than I expected, so I can work a little more area at once. What this is going to do is this is going to give you the mid-grade layer. It's going to give you the mid-grade color. It's going to help you make a transition to your highlight color. And you don't have to make it exactly the same. It's just kind of a general, you want to follow that general pattern you just made. Remember, just like with oil paints, if you're having a hard time getting your paint to stick, thin it out a little bit. Thinner paint will stick to thicker paint. Once you get your lighter highlights in there, wherever you want them. Maybe you want a few clouds that don't have that darker underlayment. Then you're going to go back to your blending brush. Make sure you get it plenty wet. So you haven't got a lot of excess color in there. Just start working your pattern out. Few hairs and some air. Circular motion. It's going to give the illusion of puffiness of that circular motion. But in this case, you want to keep that circular motion following your pattern. You may not get exactly what you want just on your first attempt. You may not get what you want on every attempt. To be honest with you, I'm so far wondering if this is going to turn out. You just kind of give it your basic shapes. Right now we're basically just getting our color gradients in. Then we'll go back and put our highlight on. This is drying a lot slower. It's actually drying. It must have a retarding agent in it because it's drying slower than even my tube paints. Now it's very important that we make sure we get these brushes cleaned out all the way. Excuse me, I dropped my brush. Now we're going to go back to our fan brush. Again, we're going to paint the bottom of the cup or whatever it is we're using, unless we've got a rack in it. As much color out of it as we possibly can. In just a moment to get some more white, because I kind of made up all my white, so I got to get some more clean white. Apparently we're going to be serenaded a little bit if you're hearing that. Now we're going to go into our pure white. I'll load that brush up. Let it thin out a little bit. And again, follow our pattern. Now you don't always have to do this three-step process. Just the three-step process gives you a little more practice on the method. I'll keep it as white as possible. Kind of lay it in, making sure you're leaving some of that other darker color behind. Again, you don't have to get your pattern perfect every time. Actually, not getting your pattern perfect adds a little more realism to it. Just going to follow around. I'll give you another layer of lighter color to get you closer to that pretty puffy white cloud color. Remember, you don't want to lay your color right on top of what you've already done. It's got to be a little bit of change. Another one right there. This one there. Let's put another one right there. You get the general idea. We're starting to get a tunnel going on. Now that clean blending brush. Make sure it's wet. Go back to our blending method. That's where we really got to be careful not to be moving paint too much, or we'll lose all of our highlight. We'll lose our effect. I wonder if that kid even knows what she's talking about. You see how, even if you're not getting what you want, you see how this technique helps create a cloud, helps give you the impression of a cloud. And see, after we get all of our initial blending done, I used to working with colors that used to working with paints that dry faster than this. So it's become a challenge even for me. That's okay, we can learn together. I can learn how to work with these paints while you learn how to do the general technique. Just a few hairs and some air. Yeah, see a spot where we could use another little, there we go. Put him right there. Okay, now we're just going to knock the color out of our brush. We're not going to get it wet, we're just going to get all the color out of it. As much color out of it as we can possibly get out of it. Go ahead and get it a little drier. The drier you can get it, the better. In fact, I'm using my jeans. You just kind of start really going even lighter with it, with your touch, a little even lighter with your touch. And now you just want to finalize the look. These little cloud tunnels sounds simple, but as you're probably noticing if you're following along, they're not as simple as they sound. But it gives you the method. That was the whole point of this, was to give you the method. If there's an area you don't like, an area that's still a little too dark, you can just blend that color in a little bit. Right there. A little too dark. A little too dark. Now, when you're doing a tunnel of clouds, of course, a lot of your clouds are going to be linear. But on a later episode, we'll work with individual clouds within a scene. This is just to get you familiar with the method. So, normally this is where I would sign it But as I said, this particular brand of paint is drying slower than expected. Be careful because you could piddle this thing to death, and we don't want to do that. But I keep seeing areas that it's just piled up too much. Normally I would sign on camera. You got to give this time to dry, so we're going to call that one finished. And I hope you enjoyed this quick study in clouds. Like I say, in a future episode we'll address clouds within a scene, but this was to give you the general concept of how to do them.